The sky above Neutronia 7 erupted with brilliant light as space itself tore open like a wound. Elder Varric's moonshadow of the celestial concordate dropped his ceremonial staff, its crystal head shattering against the observatory floor. Behind him, the gathered dignitaries of 17 peaceful star nations gasped in unison. "By the 7 moons," breathed Admiral Elisander, her quatuor eyes widening in horror. "What manner of abomination is that?" The ship, if it could even be called such, was unlike anything the Concordate had encountered in 8 millennia of space exploration. Where their vessels were elegant, smooth-hulled creations that sailed the void with minimal disturbance, this thing was an affront to the natural order. Its hull was jagged, asymmetrical, bristling with what could only be weaponry. Massive. Heat vents glowed like the maws of ancient predators. Energy signatures spiked across every sensor array, overloading systems designed to monitor stars. "Open communications," ordered Varrix, his voice steady despite the tremor in his lower limbs. Today was to be a celebration, the completion of the Grand Harmony Sphere, a beacon meant to attract new civilizations to their peaceful coalition. Instead, they had drawn the attention of this. The main view screen flickered to life, and for the first time, the assembled representatives of the Concordate gazed upon the face of humanity. Commander Ravek Frost of the Earth Expeditionary Force fixed his steel-blue eyes on the alien gathering. Behind him, the bridge of the ESV Prometheus hummed with quiet efficiency. What these aliens saw as chaotic design was in fact the pinnacle of human ingenuity. A vessel built by a species that had clawed its way to the stars, despite a home world that had tried to kill them at every turn. "This is Commander Frost of the Earth vessel Prometheus. We come in peace and wish to establish diplomatic relations." Varric studied the human's face, noting the peculiar lack of sensory appendages and the strange fur atop its head. The translation matrix struggled with the harsh percussive language, but the meaning was clear enough. "I am Elder Varrix of the Celestial Concordate. Your arrival has caused considerable alarm. Your vessel's configuration suggests capabilities of significant destruction." Frost's expression remained impassive. "The Prometheus is a multi-purpose exploration and defense vessel. We come from a world where preparation has been the difference between survival and extinction." Lieutenant Kestrel Hawk whispered in Frost's ear, "Sir, their defensive capabilities are minimal. No shield harmonics, minimal point defense. These people are completely vulnerable." "Stand down, Lieutenant," Frost murmured. "We're not here to frighten them." But the damage was done. The Concordate sensors had already catalogued every weapon system, every armored plate, every redundancy built into the human ship. To a coalition that had known peace for 20 generations, the Prometheus wasn't just a vessel. It was an extinction-level event waiting to happen. "Commander Frost," Varric said carefully, "we invite a small delegation to our station to discuss terms of coexistence. However, we must insist your vessel maintain a distance of no less than 5 light minutes from our colony." Frost nodded, understanding the fear all too well. Humanity had once cowered before the unknown as well, before they had learned to master it. "Agreed. Prepare for our shuttle's arrival. We have much to discuss about the galaxy we both call home." As the communication ended, Admiral Elisander approached Varrix, her voice barely above a whisper. "What have we done by sending out that beacon? These humans, they build as if the universe itself is their enemy." Varrix gazed at the terrible beauty of the Prometheus. "Perhaps, Admiral, it has been for them." The human shuttle descended toward the Harmony Sphere's central docking bay, its angular design a stark contrast to the flowing architecture of the station. Unlike the Prometheus, this smaller craft was only lightly armed, a concession that did little to calm the Concordate security forces. Oriban Stellarwave, chief of diplomatic security, watched the approaching vessel with all 3 of his hearts pounding rapidly. His species, the Lorani, had evolved on a world of constant twilight, their senses attuned to detect the slightest changes in their environment. The human's very presence sent warning signals cascading through his nervous system. "They move with such deliberation," he commented to his second, Vela Nightwind. "Like predators. Do not prejudge them," Vela cautioned. though her own posture remained rigid. "The Galaxy Protocol demands we give them fair audience." The shuttle's landing gear extended with mechanical precision, touching down exactly at the designated coordinates. Oribon couldn't help but note how the craft's engines remained in standby mode rather than fully powering down, ready for immediate departure if necessary. The airlock cycled open, and 3 humans emerged. Commander Frost led the delegation, flanked by Science Officer Meridian Stormchaser and Diplomatic Liaison Corvus Sunfire. The humans wore what they had described as dress uniforms, though to Oribon's eyes, they looked more like armored combat gear softened with ceremonial elements. "Welcome to the Harmony Sphere," Varix announced, stepping forward with arms spread in the traditional greeting gesture. "We are honored by your presence." Frost inclined his head. "The honor is mutual, Elder Varix. We bring greetings from Earth and the colonies of humankind." The delegation moved toward the central chamber, designed specifically for first contact scenarios. Along the way, Meridian Stormchaser's eyes darted everywhere, taking in details that most would miss. The scientists' augmented vision, a subtle enhancement not immediately obvious to their hosts, catalogued defensive weaknesses, environmental specifications, and technological capabilities with each passing second. "Your station is remarkable," Corvus Sunfire commented, genuine appreciation in her voice. "Our architects would be fascinated by your use of bio-neural integration in the structural elements." Varix seemed pleased. "The Harmony Sphere grows as much as it is built, the living. Components regenerate and adapt to our needs." As they entered the council chamber, Frost noticed the subtle shift in atmospheric composition, slightly higher oxygen levels, perhaps intended to create a more comfortable environment for the human visitors. The gesture was thoughtful, but it also revealed something crucial. The Concordat had been studying human physiology even before their arrival. The circular chamber held representatives from all 17 member species of the Concordat. Some were vaguely humanoid, others utterly alien in form. All watched the humans with expressions ranging from curiosity to poorly concealed fear. "Before we begin formal discussions," Frost said, "I believe it's important to address the obvious tension in this room. You fear our ship, our technology, and perhaps our intentions." Varix hesitated, then nodded. "Your vessel's capabilities exceed anything in our combined fleets. We are concerned about the implications." "Humanity evolved on a world of extremes," Frost explained. "Predators, natural disasters, climate shifts. When we weren't fighting our environment, we were fighting each other. Our history is written in survival against overwhelming odds." "You built your ship for war," Admiral Elisander stated bluntly. Corvus Sunfire smiled diplomatically. "We built our ship to endure. The weapons you see are largely defensive. The redundancies and armoring are lessons hard-learned from cosmic radiation, micrometeorites, and spatial anomalies. We prepare for the worst while hoping for the best." Science Officer Stormchaser activated a holographic display showing the Prometheus in detail. "Your scans only detected about 60% of our ship's true capabilities. The rest are scientific. Instruments, cultivation bays, and diplomatic facilities." The revelation sent a ripple of unease through the chamber. If their scans had missed so much, what else might they have misinterpreted? "We have existed in peace for 20 generations," Varix said. "We have no need for such preparations." Frost's expression darkened slightly. "Then you have been fortunate. The galaxy we've explored is far less forgiving." The diplomatic reception that evening was a carefully choreographed dance of cultural exchange. The grand hall of the Harmony Sphere pulsed with bioluminescent light that shifted in harmony with the emotional resonance of its occupants, currently a nervous blend of azure and gold. Corvus Sunfire moved gracefully among the alien dignitaries, her translator implant working overtime to process 17 different languages. Unlike most of the human delegation who clustered together defensively, she embraced the discomfort of being surrounded by the unknown. "Your adaptation to our social customs is impressive," noted Zenith Clearwater, the aquatic representative from Hydrus Prime. His translucent body rippled with phosphorescent patterns as he spoke. "Humans are nothing if not adaptable," Corvus replied, carefully mimicking the subtle bobbing motion that indicated respect in Hydrusian culture. Across the room, Commander Frost engaged in a more tense conversation with Elder Varix and several military officials from the Concordat. They had moved past pleasantries to more substantial matters. "You claim to have encountered no other aggressive species?" Frost asked, genuine disbelief in his voice. "The Concordat's expansion has been methodical and peaceful," Varix explained. "When we detect developing civilizations, we observe from afar until they achieve faster-than-light capabilities. Then we extend an invitation to join our coalition. And all accept?" Meridian Stormchaser interjected, adjusting her sensory augmentation to better read the subtle biochemical markers that might indicate deception. "Not all," admitted Admiral Elisander. "Some choose isolation. We respect their boundaries." Frost exchanged a glance with Stormchaser. Something didn't add up. The galaxy they had explored was filled with resource competition, territorial disputes, and the occasional predatory species. The Concordat's experience seemed almost curated. Meanwhile, aboard the Prometheus, Lieutenant Kestrel Hawk had been left in command. The massive vessel maintained its agreed-upon distance, but its sensors remained at full alert, continuously mapping the surrounding space. "Lieutenant," called Sensor Specialist Orion Blackridge, "I'm detecting unusual energy signatures from the system's outer rim." Hawk moved to the sensor station, her eyes narrowing as she studied the readings. "Those aren't natural formations. Profile suggests artificial structures, possibly monitoring stations." "They appear to form a perimeter around this entire sector," Orion confirmed, "and they're actively scanning us." "Maintain passive observation," Hawk ordered. "Record everything but take no action that could be interpreted as aggressive." Back at the reception, Corvus had managed to separate a junior diplomat from the Lorani delegation. Quasar Lightweaver was younger than most representatives, less guarded in his conversation. "Your people seem well protected here," Corvus noted, gesturing to the vast station around them. "Have you always enjoyed such security?" Quasar's inner eyelids flickered, a sign of discomfort that Corvus's cultural training had prepared her to recognize. "The Guardians ensure our safety." "Guardians?" Corvus kept her tone casual, though her interest had sharpened instantly. "The architects of the Concordat," Quasar explained reluctantly. "They established the protected zones millennia ago. They discourage aggressive expansion." Before Corvus could press further, Elder Varix appeared beside them, his expression taut. "Liaison Sunfire, I believe Commander Frost is requesting your presence." As Corvus was escorted away, she caught Quasar making a subtle gesture, a warning. Something was very wrong with the Concordat's perfect peace. In a private alcove, Frost briefed his team on the Prometheus's findings. "They're not telling us everything. This entire sector is ringed with advanced monitoring technology, and according to historical data we've accessed from their public networks, no Concordat species has engaged in military conflict for over 3,000 years. "That's statistically impossible," Meridian stated flatly. "Even with shared resources and cultural compatibility, some level of conflict is inevitable in any coalition of differing species." "Unless they're being controlled," Corvus suggested quietly. "Or protected, possibly against their knowledge." Frost's communicator vibrated subtly against his wrist. A text-only message from the Prometheus. "Detecting massive energy surge at System Edge, unknown vessel approaching. Estimated arrival 17 minutes. We need to accelerate our timeline," Frost decided. "Corvus, continue gathering information from the junior delegates. Meridian, I need access to their secure historical archives. Something isn't right here, and we need answers before the Station's lighting suddenly shifted to a deep, pulsating purple, a color they hadn't seen before. Around them, the Concordat representatives froze, their expressions transforming from diplomatic neutrality to naked fear. "They're coming," Varix whispered, all pretense abandoned. "The Guardians have noticed you," the command center of the Harmony. Sphere erupted into controlled chaos as the Concordat officials scrambled to their stations. Elder Varix moved with surprising speed for one of his advanced years, his four-fingered hands flying across holographic interfaces. "Prepare the welcoming protocols," he ordered, his voice unnaturally calm despite the panic evident in his secondary breathing slits. "Ensure all visitors are confined to designated observation areas." Commander Frost stepped forward, his military bearing more pronounced than ever. "Elder Varix, I believe we deserve an explanation. Who are these Guardians, and why has their arrival caused such alarm?" Varix hesitated, then gestured for Frost and his team to follow him into a smaller antechamber. As the door sealed behind them, he activated a field that Meridian's instruments identified as a sophisticated dampening barrier. "What I tell you now has never been shared with any outside species," Varix began, his voice lowered despite the privacy measures. "The Guardians arrived in our region of space approximately 12,000 years ago. They encountered our various civilizations when most were still confined to their home systems. They offered protection," Corvus surmised, her diplomatic training helping her read between the lines. "Protection and guidance," Varix confirmed. "They established the Concordat, provided technology for peaceful cooperation, and created the protected zone we inhabit. In return, they ask only that we adhere to their primary directive, evolutionary harmony." "Controlled evolution," Frost translated, his expression darkening. "They're conducting an experiment with your species." Varix's skin paled. "They prefer the term cultivation. They believe that violence is an evolutionary dead end. That true? Advancement comes through cooperation rather than competition." Meanwhile, aboard the Prometheus, Lieutenant Hawk watched as an enormous vessel emerged from what appeared to be a localized distortion in space-time. Unlike the brutal efficiency of human design or the organic elegance of Concordat architecture, this ship defied conventional understanding. Its geometry seemed to shift subtly, as if parts of it existed in dimensions beyond normal perception. "All hands to battle stations," Hawk ordered, though she knew the Prometheus was hopelessly outmatched. "Passive defensive measures only. Prepare emergency evacuation protocols for the commander's team." The massive Guardian vessel oriented itself toward the Prometheus, then simply stopped. No deceleration, no maneuvering thrusters. One moment, it was moving. The next, it was perfectly stationary relative to the human ship. "We're being scanned," reported Orion, his voice tight with tension. "Every frequency, every spectrum. They're even probing our quantum communications array." A communication request flickered across Hawk's console. After a moment's hesitation, she accepted. The view screen filled with an entity that only approximately resembled a bipedal form. Its features shifted constantly, as if the concept of stable physical appearance was merely a courtesy it extended to lesser beings. "Unexpected variables," the entity stated, its voice resonating from everywhere and nowhere simultaneously. "Human vessel designation Prometheus. Your presence is anomalous. Your design philosophy is concerningly familiar." Hawk straightened her posture. "This is Lieutenant Kestrel Hawk, acting commander of the ESV Prometheus. We are on a peaceful mission of exploration and diplomatic exchange." The entity's form rippled with what might have been amusement. "Your species has developed independent of our guidance. This requires assessment." Back on the Harmony Sphere, Frost's team had been joined by Admiral Elisander, who appeared far more distressed than Varix. "You don't understand," she hissed, her quatuor eyes blinking rapidly. "The Guardians control everything. Our development, our territory, our conflicts. They intervene when any species begins developing technology they deem destabilizing. Like weapons," Meridian concluded, "or defenses that might challenge their authority." "They've been protecting you," Frost acknowledged, "but they've also been limiting you, keeping you dependent." "What choice do we have?" Varix asked quietly. "Their power is beyond anything we could hope to match. They reshape planets, redirect stellar output, manipulate the very fabric of space. We are children before them." Frost's communicator buzzed again. The message from Hawk was brief but clear. "Guardian vessel has made contact. They're coming for you." "My ship is in danger," Frost stated firmly. "We need to return immediately." "Impossible," Elisander replied. "When the Guardians arrive, all transit between vessels is suspended until they complete their assessment." "Assessment of what?" Corvus demanded. "Of your potential threat to the experiment," Varix answered. "The Guardians have encountered other Species like yours before, independently evolved, technologically aggressive. They were deemed incompatible with evolutionary harmony. The implication hung heavy in the air. What happened to them? Meridian asked, though she already suspected the answer. Varix wouldn't meet her eyes. The Guardians do not destroy. They simply adjust. Those species now exist within the Concordat, their histories and biologies modified to better suit the experiment. Frost's jaw tightened. They're coming to adjust humanity. The Guardian's shuttle approached the Harmony sphere with impossible grace, its surface rippling like liquid metal as it adjusted to match the station's docking parameters. Unlike the human shuttle, which had remained separate from the station, after docking, this vessel seemed to merge with the structure itself, becoming an extension of the Harmony sphere. Elder Varix led Commander Frost and his team toward the main reception hall, now cleared of all other representatives. Only the highest Concordat officials remained, standing in a perfect semicircle as the Guardian delegation emerged from their access point. "Remember," Varix whispered urgently, "speak only when addressed directly. Offer no resistance or contradiction. The survival of your species may depend on making a favorable impression." Frost nodded grimly, but said nothing. Behind him, Meridian Stormchaser subtly activated a neural recording device implanted beneath her skin. Standard procedure for first. Contact with potentially hostile species. If they didn't survive this encounter, at least humanity would know what happened to them. The Guardian delegation consisted of 3 entities. The central figure appeared vaguely humanoid, though its proportions shifted subtly with each movement, as if its body was merely a suggestion rather than a fixed form. The other 2 seemed more abstract, one resembling a complex geometric structure that rotated through impossible dimensions, the other a swirling vortex of particles that occasionally coalesced into recognizable patterns. Concordat representatives. "We acknowledge your stewardship," the central figure stated. Its voice emerged not from anything resembling a mouth, but seemed to form directly in the minds of all present. "Anomalous elements have been detected. We come to assess." Varix performed an elaborate bow. "Revered Guardians, we welcome your wisdom. These humans arrived in response to our Harmony beacon. We have commenced standard integration protocols." The Guardian's attention shifted to Frost, its gaze seeming to pierce through him at a molecular level. "Human Commander Revek Frost, your species' development path is unexpected. You have achieved technological advancement through conflict rather than harmony." "Conflict has been one of many teachers," Frost replied carefully, "as has cooperation, curiosity, and compassion. Your vessel," the Guardian continued, "bears design elements reminiscent of the precursors. This is concerning." Frost exchanged a quick glance with Meridian, who gave an almost imperceptible shake of her head. They had no information about any precursors in their databases. Meanwhile, aboard the Prometheus, Lieutenant Hawk received a priority transmission from Earth Command. The quantum entanglement communication bypassed all conventional blockades, allowing direct contact even under these extraordinary circumstances. "Lieutenant," Admiral Neota Starforge's face appeared on the secure channel, her expression grave. "Your sensor data regarding the Guardian vessel has been analyzed. The energy signatures match theoretical patterns proposed by Dr. Lyra Dawnbringer's research team." Hawk leaned forward. "Dr. Dawnbringer? The xenoarchaeologist who disappeared 3 years ago while investigating ruins in the Andromeda Fringe?" "The same. Before her disappearance, she transmitted partial data suggesting an ancient civilization that once controlled multiple galaxies through a network of engineered species. Her last message warned of shepherds who maintained these engineered populations." "The Guardians?" Hawk whispered. "Exactly. And if Dawnbringer's theories are correct, they've been manipulating evolutionary patterns across our entire region of space, all except Earth, which was somehow overlooked or deemed unsuitable for their experiments." Back on the Harmony sphere, the interrogation continued. "Your cognitive structures resist our preliminary assessment," the geometric Guardian stated. "Its forms rotating with increased speed. You maintain mental barriers consistent with species who have encountered psionic manipulation previously." This revelation stunned Frost. Humanity had never documented contact with telepathic entities, Yet these guardians were suggesting otherwise. "We have no record of such encounters," Corvus offered diplomatically. "Records can be amended," the particle vortex guardian responded. "Memories can be harmonized. This is the way of evolutionary guidance." Elder Varric stepped forward, his posture deferential, but his voice surprisingly firm. "Revered guardians, if I might suggest, the humans appear to have developed independently along a parallel evolutionary track. Perhaps they offer an opportunity to expand the experiment's parameters rather than requiring adjustment." The Central Guardian's form solidified slightly, becoming more distinctly humanoid. "Your suggestion is noted, Elder Varric. However, unguided. Evolution presents contamination risks to the experiment. The human's vessel alone contains weapons capabilities exceeding the combined defensive systems of the entire Concordat. For protection, Frost interjected, not conquest. "A distinction without difference," the Guardian replied coldly. "Your species builds to survive conflict rather than to transcend it. This philosophical divergence cannot be reconciled without fundamental adjustment." Meridian stepped forward, her scientific curiosity overriding caution. "You mentioned precursors. Were they like us? Did they resist your guidance?" The air in the chamber seemed to crystallize with sudden tension. The Guardian's forms briefly destabilized, patterns shifting erratically before reforming. "The precursors are irrelevant," the Central Guardian stated after a moment. "They chose extinction over harmony. Their path need not be yours." On the Prometheus, Hawk received a final transmission from Admiral Starforge before the quantum link degraded. "Lieutenant, Dr. Dawnbringer's last transmission included technical specifications for a device she claimed could disrupt Guardian influence. We're transmitting the schematics now. It's theoretical, untested, and likely a one-way trip for whoever activates it." Hawk stared at the schematics appearing on her screen. "This would require reconfiguring our main drive to create a cascading quantum collapse. We'd be stranded at minimum." "The choice is yours, Lieutenant," Starforge replied as her image began to break up. "But if these Guardians are what Dawnbringer believed them to be, the transmission cut off." Hawk turned to her engineering chief. "How quickly can you adapt these specifications to our systems?" 6 hours minimum," the chief replied after studying the schematics. "And Commander Frost and the others would need to be back on board before we initiated the sequence." Hawk nodded. Grimly, "Then we better find a way to get them back. Start the modifications. We're not letting anyone adjust humanity today." Time seemed to compress and expand simultaneously as Commander Frost faced the Guardians. The central entity had begun to emanate waves of energy that Meridian's instruments identified as highly organized psionic patterns, attempts to probe their minds that crashed against humanity's apparently natural mental barriers. "Your resistance is futile, but nonetheless impressive," the Guardian acknowledged. "A product of your chaotic evolutionary path, perhaps. Most species we encounter yield to guidance instantaneously." "Humanity doesn't yield easily," Frost replied, maintaining eye contact despite the disorienting effect of the Guardian's shifting form. "It's both our greatest flaw and our defining strength." The geometric Guardian rotated through a complex series of transformations. "The assessment is complete. This species presents unacceptable deviation from harmonic parameters. Recommendation: full neurocognitive restructuring, with memory suppression of pre-contact development." The particle vortex Guardian added, "Genetic modification will also be required to remove aggressive tendencies and enhance receptivity to guidance. Their vessel should be deconstructed and analyzed for precursor influence." Frost felt cold dread settling in his stomach. These beings weren't proposing to kill humanity. They wanted to fundamentally change what humans were, to erase everything that made them human. "And if we decline this adjustment?" Corvus asked, her diplomatic training straining to maintain composure. "Declination is not an option within the experiment," the Central Guardian stated simply. "Your integration has already begun." Throughout the Harmony sphere, alarms suddenly blared. Elder Varric rushed to a communication panel, his expression shifting from concern to shock. "The human vessel is moving," he exclaimed. "It's approaching the station at high velocity." The Guardians' attention momentarily shifted, their forms destabilizing, slightly in what might have been surprise. Lieutenant Hawk's voice came through on Frost's communicator, broadcasting on an open channel. "Commander, we've identified the Guardian's suppression field and found a way to temporarily disrupt it. Prepare for emergency extraction in 30 seconds. "No!" Elder Varix cried, genuine fear in his voice. "The Guardians will punish all of—" Fast for this defiance. The Central Guardian's form grew larger, darker, its edges becoming sharp and threatening. "This action confirms our assessment. Your species is inherently destabilizing." "We're not destabilizing," Frost countered, stepping protectively in front of the concordant representatives. "We're catalyzing. There's a difference." Oriban Stellarwave, who had been watching silently from the periphery, suddenly moved to stand beside Frost. I support the humans' right to self-determination." His statement sent shockwaves through the assembled concordant officials. Never in living memory had anyone openly defied the Guardians. The particle vortex Guardians swirled menacingly. "This contamination spreads already. The human vessel must be neutralized." Above the Harmony Sphere, the Prometheus executed a series of maneuvers that should have been impossible for a vessel of its size. Lieutenant Hawk had activated every countermeasure in their arsenal, creating a chaotic electromagnetic field that temporarily disrupted the Guardian's control over local space. "Engineering reports ready," called Orion from his station. "Quantum cascade device is primed, but we'll only get one shot." "Bring us alongside the station," Hawk ordered. "Prepare for emergency extraction and immediate jump to safe distance." Inside the reception hall, the confrontation had reached its breaking point. More concordant representatives were moving to stand with the humans, defying millennia of conditioned obedience. "Your experiment is flawed," Meridian stated boldly. "True evolution requires both cooperation and competition. You've eliminated the selective pressures that drive genuine advancement." "Your understanding is limited," the Central Guardian replied, its voice hardening. "We have guided countless species to transcendence. Yours will join them, willingly or otherwise." The air around them began to shimmer as the Guardians initiated what appeared to be a force field, cutting off the humans from their growing number of Concordat supporters. "Commander," Corvus whispered urgently, "whatever Lieutenant Hawk is planning, it needs to happen now." Frost nodded, then addressed the Guardians one final time. "You claim to guide species to transcendence, but what you actually do is limit them to your narrow definition of what advanced life should be. That's not transcendence, it's stagnation." The chamber wall suddenly glowed with intense energy as the Prometheus activated its extraction beam, a technology developed specifically for emergency evacuation from hostile environments. "All humans prepare for immediate extraction," Hawk's voice announced over the communication system. Frost turned to Varix and the others who had stood with them. "Come with us. Break free from their control." The Central Guardian's form expanded, darkness spreading across the chamber. "None will leave. The experiment must be preserved." In that moment, Admiral Elisander made a decision that would change the course of 17 civilizations. She lunged forward, breaking through the Guardian's force field through sheer determination, and placed something in Frost's hand. "The access codes to our historical archives," she whispered. "The truth about the precursors. They weren't destroyed. They escaped. Find them." The extraction beam intensified, enveloping Frost and his team. The last thing they saw was Elder Varix stepping forward, addressing the Guardians with newfound courage. "We revoke our participation in your experiment," he declared, as the humans dematerialized. "We choose to evolve on our own terms." Aboard the Prometheus, chaos reigned as the extraction team materialized on the transport platform. "We're clear," shouted the transport chief. "All humans accounted for." "And we have passengers," Frost added, indicating several concordant representatives who had been caught in the extraction field, including Quasar Lightweaver and Oriban Stellarwave. "The Guardian vessel is powering weapons," Orion reported from his station. "Energy readings off the charts." "Activate the quantum cascade device," Hawk ordered, "and get us out of here." The engineering chief hesitated. "Lieutenant, once activated, we won't be able to use conventional FTL for at least 7 years. We'll be stranded far from Earth." Better. Stranded than enslaved, Frost said, taking command as he reached the bridge. Do it. The Prometheus's main drive began to emit a strange, pulsating glow as the quantum cascade device activated. Space itself seemed to ripple around them as the technology Dr. Dawnbringer had discovered in the ancient ruins came to life. The Guardian vessel fired, its weapon unlike anything humanity had encountered, not energy or matter, but something that seemed to bend reality itself. The beam struck the Harmony sphere instead of the Prometheus, causing sections of the station to simply cease existing. "Device at full power," the engineering chief called. "Activate," Frost commanded. The universe seemed to hold its breath for one impossible moment. Then the quantum cascade expanded outward from the Prometheus in a sphere of iridescent energy. Where it touched the Guardian vessel, the impossible geometry of the ship began to collapse, its form destabilizing as if the laws of physics it had been bending were suddenly reasserting themselves. "It's working," Meridian exclaimed. "The cascade is disrupting their transdimensional properties." The viewscreen showed the Guardian vessel fragmenting, not into debris, but into increasingly simple geometric forms that drifted apart like dissipating smoke. The particle vortex Guardian that had pursued them in a separate craft simply unraveled, its constituent particles returning to normal space-time behavior. "Get us out of here," Frost ordered. "Maximum sublight speed." As the Prometheus pulled away, they watched the remaining Guardian's vessels converging on the Harmony sphere. But instead of attacking, the Concordate station was now emitting the same iridescent energy that had disrupted the first Guardian ship. "They're using our quantum signature," Corvus realized. "They're fighting back." "Admiral Elisander's final gift," Frost said quietly. "She knew exactly what we needed." Hours later, as the Prometheus traveled at sublight speed away from Concordat space, Commander Frost gathered his senior officers and their unexpected guests in the ship's conference room. According to the historical archives Elisander provided, the Guardians have been manipulating developing species for over 50,000 years, he explained. They believe they're creating a perfect galactic community, but they're actually preventing natural evolution. "And these precursors?" Hawk asked. Oribon Stellarwave spoke up, his voice still trembling slightly from the trauma of defying beings. His people had worshipped for millennia. The precursors were like you, a species that evolved independently, with a drive to explore and the will to defend themselves. The Guardians couldn't control them, so they tried to destroy them. But they escaped, Quasar Lightweaver added. The forbidden histories say they fled beyond the rim of the galaxy, promising to return when the Guardians' power waned. Frost studied the star chart showing their current position and the vast unknown region ahead of them. With conventional, FTL disabled by the quantum cascade, they faced years of travel before reaching Earth, or they could head in the opposite direction, following the path of the legendary precursors. "We've struck the first blow against the Guardians," he said finally, "but they'll recover, adapt, and come looking for us, for Earth." "Then we need allies," Corvus suggested. "Powerful ones." Meridian nodded, her analytical mind already calculating possibilities. "The precursor data in these archives contains coordinates, a region of space beyond the Guardian's influence. If the legends are true, we might find not just allies, but the originators of some of our own technology." Frost looked around the table at his crew and their new Concordate allies. "I'm not ordering anyone on this mission. We can set course for Earth, traveling at sublight speeds. It would take years, but we'd eventually make it home." "Only to face the Guardians again," Lieutenant Hawk pointed out. "Without the quantum cascade device, Earth would be defenseless against their manipulation." "We need the precursors," Oribon stated firmly. "For 17,000 years my people have lived under the illusion of freedom. I cannot return to that existence, nor can I allow your world to suffer the same fate." One by one, the senior officers voiced their agreement. Even the Concordate refugees, still processing their radical break from everything they had ever known, nodded their support. "Then it's decided," Frost declared. "We follow the precursor trail, we find allies, and we return to liberate both Earth and the Concordate from the Guardian's control." As the Prometheus altered course toward the galactic rim, Frost couldn't help but feel that humanity's true first contact wasn't with the Concordate at all, but with the ancient enemies they now sought as allies. The terrifying vessel that had so frightened the peaceful coalition was about to become humanity's greatest asset in a war for evolutionary freedom. The journey had just begun. The Prometheus emerged from the shadow of a massive gas giant, its once pristine hull now bearing the scars of 3 years of hard travel. Commander Frost stood on the bridge, his face more weathered, but his eyes burning with the same determination that had guided them across uncharted space. "Status report," he ordered, his voice steady despite the tension coursing through the crew. "Fleet formation holding," Lieutenant Hawke responded, her gaze fixed on the tactical display where dozens of ships, a mix of human, concordate, and precursor designs, moved in perfect synchronization. "All vessels report combat ready. Meridian." Storm Chaser approached, the neural interface at her temple glowing with the distinctive blue light of precursor technology. "The quantum resonance network is stable. All ships are synchronized." Through the view screen, Earth appeared, a blue jewel suspended in the void, still blissfully unaware of the conflict that had been raging across the galaxy. When the Prometheus had disappeared 3 years earlier, Earth had sent search parties, unaware that their missing ship had discovered both a terrible threat and humanity's greatest allies. "The Guardian vessels have detected us," Corvus announced from her station, now augmented with communication technology that could pierce the veils between dimensions. 3 carriers approaching from the lunar shadow. Frost nodded, unsurprised. After their escape from the Harmony Sphere, the Guardians had established a permanent presence in Earth's system, quietly beginning the process of adjusting humanity's development path. Most of Earth's population remained unaware, but subtle. Changes had already begun. Inexplicable technological setbacks, a strange new passivity in foreign relations, unexplained memory gaps among key scientists and military leaders. "Open a channel to the fleet," Frost ordered. The faces of his unlikely alliance appeared on screen. Captain Oryx Voidheart of the precursor flagship Indomitable Will, Elder Varix, who had survived the Guardian attack on the Harmony Sphere to become leader of the Concordate Resistance, and Admiral Starforge commanding the handful of Earth vessels that had escaped Guardian influence. "The moment has come," Frost addressed them. "For 3 years we've prepared for this day. The Guardians believe they know what evolution should look like. A carefully tended garden where every species grows according to their design. Today we show them what true evolution means: adaptation, resilience, and the freedom to forge our own destiny." Oryx Voidheart nodded, his crystalline features catching the light of distant stars. The precursors had indeed survived, evolving over millennia into beings of extraordinary capability. When the Prometheus had finally located their hidden realm beyond the galactic rim, they had found not just allies, but distant cousins. For the precursors had visited Earth long ago, subtly influencing human development to create a species that could one day stand against the Guardians. "The resonance cascade is primed," Oryx confirmed. "When detonated, it will permanently sever the Guardians' connection to their transdimensional power source. They will be bound by the same laws of physics as the rest of us, formidable but no longer gods." "And Earth?" Frost asked the question that had haunted him for 3 years. "The planetary shield will protect your homeworld from the cascade's effects," Oryx assured him. "But we must establish it before the Guardians realize our true purpose." Elder Varix's weathered face showed both fear and determination. "The Concordate fleet will draw their attention. Our people have lived under Guardian control for too long. It is fitting that we lead the charge for freedom." Frost felt a momentary pang of guilt. The Concordate vessels were still technologically inferior to both the precursor ships and the Guardians. They would suffer the heaviest casualties. As if reading his thoughts, Varix added, "Do not mourn us, Commander. For the first time in countless generations, we choose our own fate. There is no greater freedom." The tactical display suddenly flared with warning signals. "Guardian reinforcements incoming," Hawke announced. "They're adapting to our quantum signature faster than predicted." "Then we've run out of time for speeches," Frost concluded. "All vessels commence Operation Liberation. May whatever gods exist in this universe watch over us all." The battle that followed would later be recorded in the histories of a dozen species as the Awakening. The Concordate fleet, led by Elder Varix himself, engaged the Guardian vanguard in a furious assault that confused and divided the enemy's attention. Meanwhile, the precursor vessels, with their reality-bending technology, established a planetary shield around Earth, protecting it from what was to come. The Prometheus, now upgraded with a hybrid of human ingenuity and precursor technology, led a strike team directly toward the Guardian command carrier, the massive vessel from which the manipulation of Earth was being orchestrated. "Boarding teams ready," Corvus reported as the Prometheus maneuvered through the chaotic battlespace. "Quantum tunneling devices primed. Execute," Frost ordered. Throughout the Guardian vessel, reality itself tore open as Frost led the assault team. Humans, Concordate fighters, and precursor specialists materialized directly within the enemy ship. The Guardians, for all their power, had never expected to be confronted within their own sanctuary. The Central Guardian, the same entity that had threatened them 3 years earlier at the Harmony Sphere, awaited them in the vessel's core chamber. "You persist in your defiance," it stated, its form shifting between states of matter with increasing instability. "You cannot comprehend the cosmic order you disrupt." "We understand perfectly," Frost countered, activating the resonance cascade device, the culmination of 3 years of combined research between humans, Concordate scientists, and precursor engineers. "You've been playing God for too long. Evolution isn't something to be controlled, it's something to be experienced." The Guardian's form expanded threateningly. "We have guided 1,000 civilizations to transcendence. Without us, chaos will reign. Species will destroy each other in endless war." "Maybe some will," Meridian acknowledged, stepping forward. "Others will build, create, explore, but they'll do it on their own terms, not yours." "The experiment must continue," the Guardian insisted, its voice taking on a hint of desperation. "The pattern must be maintained." "The experiment is over," Frost stated with finality, activating the cascade device. "And a new one begins." The device pulsed once, then emitted a silent wave of energy that spread outward at impossible speed. Where it touched the Guardian, the entity's form began to solidify, its shifting dimensions collapsing into 3-dimensional space. For the first time, the humans saw the Guardian as it truly was, not a godlike being of incomprehensible form, but a creature of flesh and technology, ancient but mortal. Throughout the solar system, Guardian vessels began to fall silent, their trans-dimensional capabilities neutralized by the resonance cascade. Some fought on with conventional weapons, but without their reality-altering advantages. They found themselves outmatched by the combined fleet. On Earth, millions of people suddenly awoke as if from a dream, the subtle mental conditioning implanted by the Guardians over the previous 3 years dissolving like morning mist. The Guardian before Frost sank to what approximated knees, its once fluid form now locked into a single shape. "What have you done?" it asked, genuine confusion in its voice. "We've equalized the playing field," Frost explained without malice. "You're still powerful, still ancient and wise, but you're no longer gods. If you want to guide younger species, you'll have to do it through example and persuasion, not control." In the aftermath, as the combined fleet gathered around Earth, the full scope of what had been accomplished began to sink in. The Guardians, stripped of their trans-dimensional advantages but still possessing advanced technology, retreated to consider their new reality. Some would later return as genuine allies, having found wisdom in limitation. Others disappeared into the depths of space, perhaps to seek new methods of control. The Concordate species, freed from millennia of subtle manipulation, experienced a renaissance of creativity and progress. Some worlds descended temporarily into conflict, confirming the Guardians' warnings, but others forged new paths of cooperation based on genuine choice rather than engineered harmony. Earth welcomed the Prometheus home with a mixture of awe, gratitude, and trepidation. Humanity had been thrust onto a larger cosmic stage than anyone had imagined possible when their terrifying vessel had first encountered the Harmony Sphere. Commander Frost stood in the observation lounge of the Prometheus, watching the celebration lights from Earth's cities sparkle against the night side of the planet. Beside him stood representatives of their unlikely alliance, Meridian and Corvus, Oriben and Quasar, Elder Varix and Captain Oryx. What happens now? Quasar asked, the young Lorani diplomat having grown into a confident leader during their long journey. Now the real work begins, Frost replied. The Guardians controlled thousands of systems across multiple galaxies. Some will embrace freedom. Others will fall into chaos. We've unleashed a transformation that will echo across the cosmos for millennia. Oryx's crystalline features caught the light from Earth. My ancestors believed that true evolution requires both conflict and cooperation, struggle and harmony. The Guardians forgot this balance in their quest for perfect order. And humanity? Elder Varix inquired. Your vessel once terrified us with its weapons and defenses. Now we understand why. You built as you did. Will you continue on this path? Frost considered the question carefully. We'll build ships that can defend freedom wherever it's threatened. But we'll also build bridges between civilizations that choose their own destiny. He gestured toward Earth. That terrifying vessel that so concerned you at our first meeting, it was never just a weapon, it was always a shield. As the Alliance dispersed to their respective worlds and duties, Frost remained at the viewport, watching his home planet turn beneath him. Humanity's first contact had indeed gone wrong, but in doing so it had set right an imbalance that had persisted for 50,000 years. The universe was more dangerous now, more unpredictable, but it was also more free. Species across a dozen, galaxies would now forge their own evolutionary paths, for better or worse, and that terrifying human vessel that had started it all. The Prometheus would soon be joined by others of its kind, carrying not just humanity's defenses into the stars, but also its most precious cargo, the right to self-determination. For in the end, what had truly terrified the Guardians wasn't human weapons or technology. It was humanity's unbreakable spirit and refusal to be controlled. And that, Commander Frost reflected as Earth rotated below, was something worth being feared for.